Okay, hi everybody. We're coming to you from the bar class. We actually just had two ballet dancers warm up here. We thought it would be quite amusing if we had bar class while there were people doing actual bar in the studio, but they have left. So today we are dealing with, and let me just find here in my view, slightly more advanced coloratura exercises. And as I said, there are quite a few different exercises. We've developed these over the years. So some of you might have seen some of them, but I don't think anybody would have seen all of them. So we're going to deal with chromatics a little, which in fact we have not made our own exercises for, because a chromatic scale is a chromatic scale. There's only so much you can do about it. Larger intervals and non-legato articulations, which forms a big part of coloratura singing. And then we'll look at a few repertoire applications, mostly from the book. I did not receive, I think, from anybody specific requests, so I just kind of stuck with what I normally have. So first up is chromatics, because you will, from time to time, find chromatic scales either as a big part of coloratura, because, some people really, also in cadenzas, you will sometimes find some people like, right, especially descending chromatic scales can be very effective in cadenzas. Those of you who know Georgia Jarman knows that there's not a bel canto evening with Georgia Jarman without a descending coloratura scale, because she loves singing them. So we always build at least one into a cadenza somewhere. But this is from Marchesi, with whom we have spent a lot of time with this summer. I like this exercise because it kind of makes you be diatonic and chromatic at the same time. In exercise 130 and also 131, because that is one of the things that sometimes happen is if you just have to do semitones, like that has its own challenges for people who have trouble really intonating that semitone. But this is a whole different ballgame when you have to, right? It's like the chromatics come with the raised fourth and the raised fifth, but the rest of it is diatonic. So I find it interesting that Marchesi has this exercise. It's on IMSLP, so this is easy to find. This is only one part of her chromatics 2 pages. I think she has lots of chromatics exercises. The same thing coming down, where you have the raised fourth and then the lowered third, right? And those are the chromatics that very often you find, especially this one. And then when you put that in 4 note groups, you're going to end up with a diatonic note in there as well, because of how the scale breaks down. Not right. So when you find chromatics in your coloratura, be really clear when that starts and whether there is a little tone in there somewhere hiding that will screw you up, right? Full tone, diatonic at the end of it, okay? So that is the first kind of advanced skill that you want to practice. If you have trouble intonating semitones and tones, the other good thing that you can always do is floss. Our good old semitone and tone exercise, there's nothing better to really just clarify where to find that distance in your throat. Since I played Juliet, the other thing to be clear about is when in the rhythm of the coloratura or the chromatic scale you are on a consonant note or not. So for example, in Juliet, which I don't have now, I just kind of think about it. That's where people really often get screwed up, right? So that's a dominant 7 chord. The chord notes are C, E, G, B flat. And when you're going to do B flat, G, E, right? You see how those are chord tones? But then And that's where people fall off the boat, and then they're like, ah, je. We've all heard that cadenza go awry at the end, and then people just eventually stop the scale and go, je, and you're like, oh my God, thank God that's over. So chromatics are worth practicing. The other skill, this we practiced the other day in ornamentation, because it's hard to make up ornamentation if you cannot hear this Appoggiatura. So Derek has irritated you all by trying to get you to find, to feel the Appoggiatura. Right, we did this last week. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. Just clarifying that in Coloratura, you're going to find this business all the time. Either from the top or from the bottom. I would say it is, it's an advanced skill, but it's one you cannot get away from. It doesn't matter, even if you sing pretty simple music and pretty simple coloratura, there is probably going to be a dissonant pitch somewhere on a beat. And if your ear has trouble picking that out, that is going to screw your coloratura, okay? So now we get to articulations. And this is the first one, and it only deals with seconds and thirds in the beginning. And this is repeated notes in coloratura. It allows you, so this is both an attack, onset exercise, and repeated notes that you will find in coloratura. So we do it in 2 tempos. You'll also recognize this exercise. We often use this exercise, this 5-tone exercise, to improve the legato in 2-note groups, right? So you can say it's a legato exercise from within the 2-note group, and then it's an onset exercise where the note repeats. So how about we just sing this once in that kind of tempo, 3, 4. And then if you double that up and you like want to make your attack a little more nimble, you go A1B. Right, very, very useful exercise. And then you can stretch that to a third. So we do 2A. I played it legato in the beginning, but the point of this really is kind of to get that onset. And now you're going to repeat that note, 2B, and so following on to that is a sheet that is now going to start making laryngeal registration part of your coloratura exercise. Because if you cannot traverse your chest and head voice coordination change, you're going to get stuck in your coloratura in the moment when you get stuck in one register, okay? So this is designed to get right? I use this exercise a lot, and I also use just the one, right, to build head voice coordination coming down while yodeling out of the bottom. And so if you do, and then it's like you can put an octave at the end of it. So this is the basis of an exercise that's not a coloratura exercise that I use a lot. Right, it stretches the voice, but not over 2 octaves, but over 1.5 octaves. Very useful exercise, and you can make that an onset coloratura exercise by doing and then you can play with this, and as you move this around in different keys, you will find that your chest-head transition will happen in different times. So if you are down here, yeah, you're going to kind of have to find out where in this, or if you say, yeah, Yeah, and so if you sing coloratura that is going to move around the chest and the head voice, like Fior de Ligi, which we will look at towards the end of the slideshow, it's very useful to have practiced this, being aware of where in the coloratura you need to make your transition. Okay, so if we take that idea further and we start to prepare for larger intervals, you will see how 1A starts with the same idea, but then you actually make the third happening, right? So let's do it first in major. That's 1A, the first one that's going to be a major third. 3 and and then you can do it in minor. And this is just to get the voice more nimble to move in bigger intervals, because they will be hiding there. Then you can make that into, so you stretch to the fifth. This is 1B, and in the minor. Right? And so here I use my house colors, avocado green and teal, to just mark and just clarify. This is like music theory for singers, right? Remedial music theory, to understand that in the major chord, you're singing major third with a minor third on top of it, and the other way around in the minor key, right? In 1C, we're just playing with the idea of seconds and thirds, and we feel both seconds and third in each group. And this is a very useful skill. This, I would say 1C is one of the most useful coloratura exercises, being able to do this, right? Which is quite different, this, right, where it's only seconds or thirds. So this is 1C, and and again, as always, you can do them up and down wherever you want, and you can also stretch it to you can stretch them to an octave if you don't want to be stuck just kind of in the middle voice. Exercise number 2 here, you have seen a lot. We often use this exercise to kind of marry F4 to F5 and keep the middle voice solid. But what the purpose of this exercise truly is also to get you to move faster and faster through bigger intervals in preparation for larger intervals in coloratura. We mostly, for registration purposes, do this on F and F sharp for treble voices, but you can of course do it in any key. And again, if you do it in lower keys, say if you do it in C, yodel is going to come, or registration is going to come into the game, right? So for now, let's do it middle voice proper exercise. You're going to practice all the intervals of the diatonic scale, and you're going to keep the same tempo. That means you will take the same amount of time to move, but you will travel further and further, and that is the purpose of it, right? Okay, here we go. And we come the other way. And all of this is in preparation for singing more arpeggios, right? And even if you don't have repertoire that have arpeggios in it, there will be arpeggio figures somewhere, or there will be the interval of thirds, fourths, or sixths somewhere hiding out. This again is a little bit of harmony for singers, because the first line is a 5-3 chord, the second line is a 6-4 chord, and the third line is a 5-7 chord. And then I resolve it because I cannot let that. This exercise, sorry?
remember fighting about this.
Yes, there were many conversations about this, and actually there were 4 steps to this practice sheet, and only the first 2 made it into this. Okay, so here we go. So it again is using the onset, the 2-note exercise, to kind of get you then to go right. So we do 2 at a time with onsets, and then the whole chord. Ready? In 3 times. 1, 2, 3. 6, 4. 7, 5. When I cannot remember which theorist this is based on. It's, you know, all of these things I base kind of somewhat on historical things. I can remember that the one that I used for this did not have that tonic, and I was just like, I just can't stop there. I'm just like, do. My ear needs a do at the end of it, which I put that B flat there. Then we can use this same exercise and bring lower notes, because you will very often find that larger intervals in coloratura will be followed by a small interval in the opposite direction. That is just kind of like, because you're not going to find in coloratura, you're going to find, right? You're going to find that kind of flip action, up, down, up, down. So this sheet is to help you organize that. It brings these lower neighbor tones into play. Here we go. We're still in 3, 1. 6, 4. 5, 3, 7, 5. And now 6. Here we could end on it. I wouldn't die if I end on it, this 6. So here we see, right, the same kind of pattern, getting your voice moving thirds, fourths, fifths, and sixths. And so you see how this exercise is a good preparation for that. Okay, now more non-legato articulations. So here we get a little cuter, and we start to play with like how this can be played with, and you can make ornamental stuff. And so you will find this kind of coloratura very often in Mozart. You don't find this kind of coloratura that often in composers like Rossini, but in the classical era, you will find this a lot, that it feels like it's moving, but it doesn't move all the time. It has staccatos, re-articulations in it. Whether you think Donna Anna, there are all kinds of arias that have this kind of coloratura with non-legato articulations. So I think we can basically, without talking about it too much, you see all of the regular patterns, the pink turns, the mordents, and we can sing 1, 2, and 3 together. Ready? 3, 4. Now you're going to re-articulate and sing mordents. Re-articulate and sing a turn. The last one is just to put a scale and a turn, and fun thing to just sing, if you're nervous. This number 4 is a really fun thing, just like, I'm just like, need to shake it out. Let me just shake out my voice, okay? Of course, you can play around and make your own versions of these. And here we have turned it around, and instead of the upper mordant and the regular turn, we are moving the other way. So this is 2A and 3A. And or I actually played the red articulation that has them together, or you can sing two non-legato and then the turn. I would say that non-legato articulations and onset exercises are vastly overlooked in the search for good coloratura, because the ability to like attack cleanly and easily and get the voice to speak quickly is really a useful skill to have when dealing with wanting to sing faster. Now, this is based on Garaudet. It looks super complicated, but it is just some versions of this. I hope everybody can see. It's sometimes hard to get all of these things on slides. I don't know. I don't think I can make it bigger. So here we will see that it is written with this little dot. Leave out the Appoggiatura for now. You're only looking at the black notes. So this is the articulation. One of the others, you remember that in we have that different articulation in the Wakai project based on the Garcia, where it says that if you see that or that kind of thing, you think short, This is Garaudet saying the same thing, that if it's written with this little triangle on it, it is sung with the rest. You actually lift from that note. And so you see, this is a version of, right? So you can bring this articulation into many different exercises. If you want to play more with it, you can put an Appoggiatura on it. Does that make sense? And then you can do turns moving into that lift. This is such a good way to like make the voice not be sticky, so that you have like all the exercises that we make, the purpose of it always is somehow to keep it simple enough that it can be something that sticks in your head, so that you can do it in your dressing room without carrying books with you, right? I think, oh no, sorry. Once it gets to the point of trying to make exercises for all the kind of particular skills in coloratura, you tend to come up with a lot of them, because there are a lot of variations, yeah? So if you just do yesterday's exercises, your coloratura is already going to improve, but if you do today's exercises, you're going to get really good at it. This is another non-legato articulation one, which deals with kind of slightly different patterns. The first one is this one. Again, try to make it as simple as possible for you to remember. That one goes to this. That is different from the second line that starts on the beat. Right? You need kind of both ideas. And then if you make just articulation, syncopation part of a little game, you get yeah. So they're very simple, but you can do them at all kinds of tempos, and you can do them on all keys. The last two slides deals with the fact that scales and coloratura sometimes start on a beat and often start after a beat. And it is a useful skill to practice because very often you see the scale starting or the coloratura starting after a tied note. And that's when sometimes people have problems getting their voices to move. So if you look at the exercise book, you normally see things that look more kind of like this, right? It just starts moving. It's black notes all the time. But I made these to kind of have this idea of longer notes and then move, and so that the breath can keep doing it in a simple way. And of course, because I'm a sucker for a laryngeal registration thing, I throw octaves in there just to kind of like keep the larynx loose, right? There's the other thing that is useful. If your coloratura doesn't want to move, make sure that a little yodel will always kind of free that shit up, yeah? So we first do scale starting on the beat. Or we go the other way. And then if you have that same kind of idea, but you have to maintain the breath moving through the tie, you have right? So very useful. Here you want to not stop your breath. The minute you stop the breath, you're going to have trouble moving. If we go the other way, we can practice scales. Sorry for screwing that up. We do one more time that. This kind of exercise is useful, especially if you go from the chest up, to kind of just train your voice to just walk out of chest voice on its own. You don't have to decide. Most people, somehow your voice is going to get out of there. It's not going to end up in belting mode. You can also practice doing different words. Right, different ways to end this exercise is an ornament exercise. Don't run away from the last one. It gets harder, but this is for practicing truly hard coloratura, which you will see sometimes and that you will have to deal with. But again, yeah, I don't want anybody to be like, I will never be this good. But these are advanced exercises, and this is arpeggios starting on the beat and arpeggios starting after a tied note. So the first one is 3, 4. And you will see that the more difficult these things come, the more the range comes, and the more it kind of starts to feel like true coloratura exercises, right? Not even tenors really have to sing this kind of coloratura. This is the kind of stuff that you see in Liebling and, Cinti d'Amaro. You see in these like real coloratura books, you start to see these things. If you go the other way around, these are truly complicated ideas. Again, the same thing of playing, like how you can trace the chords in different ways. And then if you start after a tie, or the other way. One more time, the last one. And then next to this, you will see articulation variations. Because when you sing this kind of coloratura, you can choose to, instead of sing, you you could maybe practice or yeah, because that is where you kind of start to like play with how you can use non-legato articulations to make your ornaments or your coloratura exciting. So before I give it to Derek to do a couple of exercises with whoever wants to try out any of these repertoire applications are from the book. So you will see now, like if we put all of these things together, that you can deconstruct any coloratura that you might see in your repertoire. Turn, flip, turn, flip, scale, scale, chromatic scales, right? So it's no longer like just a lot of notes that you have to learn, but you deconstruct that to patterns that make sense to you and sense to your voice. This is Anonjunje, starts with a turn, turns. Now you see here, you see that is exactly where you find that the skeleton is, but you need to be able to hear. And that's the part of the coloratura that is the hardest, because if your ear will not pick that dissonant note, that appoggiatura, you're screwed. G for turn, scale, flips, turn, arpeggio, right? So, I mean, if you've sung all of those practice sheets, you're like, okay, well, I have to just do a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and then all of my coloratura has come together. And so here is one with the repeated notes where we see, as I said, it's very typical for Mozart coloratura to have this thing. Sentirò. You see where is hiding the arpeggio for you, and this is what makes this coloratura hard. Turn, arpeggio, passing note, turn, arpeggio, articulation, turn, scale. This is easy because it's just scale. See the flip? Scale, articulation. Turn, appoggiatura. Does that make sense? To me, that really kind of makes, and I must say that as a coach, I find that it really changes how people sing their coloratura. Not only does it help them study it faster, it comes out smoother and it comes out with more imagination. Because you feel you feel in a certain way, and flips, you feel in a slightly different way, okay? The last example I have here for repertoire application, before I'm done with this super long and hopefully fun slideshow, is how important it is to figure out what is happening laryngally when you're in your coloratura. Many people have trouble with così because they get stuck in head voice and they cannot get in and out of chest voice, right? So if you make a clear decision about where you're going to enter chest voice, that really helps. And now trickier. Right, people who are truly advanced at being able to sing chest voice high-ish, right, in the way of Mengozzi and Garaudet, can sing that whole phrase in chest without sounding that they're belting. But advanced skill, if that is not, then you transition. Yeah, you have to figure out what makes it possible for your voice to move. Okay, before we are freezing to death in this room, I'm going to ask Derek, I'm going to stop the recording first, stop the share, and whoever is brave and wants to stay and sing some of these exercises. Oh, did I stop the share? I shouldn't stop the share. Oh, I stopped the share, not the recording. I am terrible. I stopped the recording now.